The RV Show USA is brought to you by Flagstaff, building better RVs, making smarter RVers.
All right, in our last segment with Karl Miller and our Ask the Manufacturer segment, we visited about a couple of the ways that the RV industry is different than the automotive industry. Differences, I think, that are important to keep in mind. Now, something else to keep in mind, not all RVs are made at the same plant. They're not all made by the same people. As an example, the parent company of Flagstaff Rockwood is Forest River. Now, Forest River manufactures more than a dozen brands of RVs, but each brand is built in its own facility. I don't know how many plants they have, probably way more than 50, but other major players in the RV industry, like Thor, also have dozens of plants. No matter who the parent company is, each plant has its own crew, its own leadership team, its own folks who work the line to produce whatever the brand of RV they manufacture. The truth is that some brands of RVs are built better than others. The question is, how does somebody tell the difference between a well-built RV and an RV where the manufacturer cuts corners? That's the exact question that I presented to Karl Miller recently, operations manager for Flagstaff Rockwood. How do I know the difference between a good RV, a well-made RV, and one that's not made very well? How can the average person, what do they need to do to look and be able to see the difference? And how do they differ? How does a good one, a well-made RV, differ from one that's where people maybe have cut corners?
Yeah, we talk about, a camper is a house, on wheels traveling down the road in an earthquake. And sometimes when buying a camper, it's hard to tell the difference between quality versus, the look of a trick camper, whether it's the cabinet doors, being made out of, wrapped paper versus vinyl or hardwood, walls that have the proper structure. Initially pushing on it might seem okay, but down the road, all of a sudden you see, it bowing or coming apart. So a lot of it has to do with the construction of it, but most importantly, looking at what's out there and the longevity of the brands that are out in the campgrounds, people that have camped in those brands, they're ultimately the tale of telling people if it holds up or not. And if the brands are holding up, then those are the ones that are putting a little more effort into the construction than into the look of the camper itself.
Well, give me an example, because Flagstaff Rockwood, I don't want this to sound like a commercial, and it's not a commercial, but Flagstaff Rockwood overall has very, very few consumer complaints and issues as compared with other brands. I'm not going to pick out anybody, but why is that? What does Karl Miller and his team do that makes a better product than somebody else does?
Well, one of the biggest things that we've done over the years is when we have problems or trailers that are in warranty that need to come back to the factory, they've been handled. Production has handled those with service, a lot of times assisting in the repairs, being able to look at campers that are 2 years old to 5 years old to 10 years old and look at what the problems or the issues that are showing up, and what can we do to prevent those from happening over a period of time and not just in the first couple of years of it being out there in the campgrounds, and driving that to our vendors and to our processes and say, what can we do to make sure that this holds up, and still keep it into a price point that people can afford. And so that mindset of there's always something we can do. So on the structure, how you laminate a part, how many studs you put in a wall, what kind of studs you put in a wall, those are part of the process that we have engineering the product, is taking that feedback, because we're able to put our eyes on it, tear it apart, and find out exactly where the failures are. That's what has taught us the most over the years and put our brand into the light that it is today because of those opportunities that we've had.
But most of the time, the average person even the skilled person, knowledgeable person, can't see behind the wall. They can't see the underbelly. They can't see the things that are beneath the surface. So that's where the quality is built in, as from what I'm hearing from you, in these products. How does somebody know? They go, oh gosh, that's $2,000 more expensive than brand X over here. Yeah, and that's a good deal. It should be $3,000 more expensive. How does somebody know that?
That's a lot of that falls down to sales and sales training, to the dealers, to how we talk to the customers on what to look for. How do we justify the cost difference? Is it where you hit the ceiling, you see if there's flex in the ceiling panel? Is it a laminated roof or is it a conventional roof? Are the slide out end walls laminated or are they conventional? When you hit on it, tap on it, does it move or is it solid? Does it feel solid or is it almost like a cardboard waving back and forth? Those are some of the things that we explain when we have the opportunity to be in front of the customer, which we don't always, and we rely on our dealers and word of mouth from customer to customer to say, hey, check out these axles that we put on where they have independent suspension from side to side versus the whole side bouncing over a pothole instead of one wheel at a time, which takes some of that shock away from that camper when it's going down the road. So it gets harder and harder to be able to be in front of each customer, but that's where our continued training and education with our dealers to get it to the consumers, and hopefully a partnership like this to help bridge that gap and to educate what to look for in construction, suspension, and all those things that could help with the longevity of the trailer.
What runs through your mind, Karl, when you've been in the business for a long, long time, and you're the operations manager there at Flagstaff Rockwood? You build good products. What runs through your mind when you hear somebody say, oh, all RVs are junk, they're all made to fall apart, nobody cares? What runs through Karl's mind? What are you thinking when people make those big generalized statements?
Well, instantly, we take a lot of pride in what we do. It's disappointing to hear, and it tends to kind of hit you where your pride is, because you don't want to hear that and you don't want to believe that it's your product. And there's times where we have a product out there that we have to stand behind because something went wrong, but we don't believe that they're all built, they're all junk and they're all built poorly. So, and in anything that everybody does with their jobs out there, we all take pride in what we do. And so instantly that feeling of disappointment, our pride getting hurt, that's our driving force to change that mindset, to build a product where we can hopefully show the consumer over time that that's not the case, even though there's probably going to be campers out there that we can't control that are not built under our brands, that will still have some of that feel, and hopefully with the consumer driving towards a quality built camper, it will bring the quality level of the other brands up, because if they want to be competitive in the industry, they're going to have to bring their quality level up.
While manufacturers do their very best to train their dealers and dealers to train their salespeople, as Karl said, the very best way to find out the best brands and the worst is to visit with folks in a campground and listen to what they have to say. Ordinary folks are generally pretty open and honest about what they think about their RV. Now, not all RVs are junk, not by a long ways. In fact, there are some brands that are shining examples of building a quality product with minimal issues and minimal customer complaints. All the while, they're still constantly trying to make improvements. Knowledge is power, folks, and the more you know about the RV you're about to buy, the happier RVer you are going to be. That's a fact. If you have a question about the RV industry or a topic that you would like us to discuss on the air, I promise that we'll do our best to get it on the air, get it in front of Karl and his team. Leave your question on our 24-hour voicemail. The phone number, it's easy, 1-330-WINGMAN, 1-330-WINGMAN. That's 1-330-946-4626. I'm Alan Warren, the RV Wingman, back with more, lots more, right after this.